All right. Okay. Greetings. And I am going to promote Ariane to speaker. Thanks for joining. And I'm speaking as Paloma today because Thelema is getting ready for HCC. So let's get started. And welcome, CrossChain. All right. So Ariane, I think we're good to go. If you want to unmute yourself and join along and hang with me on this Twitter Spaces, I would be most welcome, good sir.
Hello, how are you doing? How's
Doing great.
Paris?
Paris is raining. It was supposed to be hot and ugly and sweaty, but Paris is raining, and Paris is a lot of traffic, a lot of people. It's dirty. There's trash everywhere. People are smoking. But I love the French. I love Paris. Paris is amazing. It's so good to be here for ETHCC. Very, very, just amazing to be here. And we are so lucky to have the chance to come out. And I think we're very excited for this week because we have a lot of stuff planned. But before I jump into that, let me just get oriented here. Welcome. My name is Tarek Lewis, and this is recorded. I am a founder of Volume. We are the platform for cross-chain protocol development and cross-chain dApps coming out of the Cosmos ecosystem. This is our weekly AMA, and this week we've been doing the Paloma AMA. So you see me talking under the Paloma talking head. We are founders of Paloma Chain, palomachain.com, and this is a very, very special day for us because we are going to be talking about our topic, cross-chain communication and the future of messaging, as well as talking about all the stuff we have planned for ETHCC. And today is July 20th, 2022. And so we welcome everybody to this event. We also have our special guest, Aryan. How's it going?
Doing well, mate. How are you doing?
Doing great. Okay, so how do I pronounce your last name so I can get it right?
It's Sheikhalian. It's quite a mouthful for sure.
Okay, one more time so I can massacre it myself.
Sheikhalian.
Sheikhalian. Okay, Mr. Sheikhalian, pleasure to have you here with us. And you're from CMT Digital, and you were super kind. Capital markets trading. Everybody may not don't know the acronym. I've always been saying CMT, capital markets trading. And you're joining us today to talk about Paloma and to talk about layer one cross-chain communications and a lot of the good stuff you're seeing. So before we jump into the agenda, Aryan, would you share an introduction to who you are, your background, and what are you rocking these days?
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name's Arian. I got into blockchain around 2017. I started working at the Blockchain Research Institute in my freshman summer with a guy called Don Tapscott, just kind of conducting a definitive investigation into the use cases of blockchain technology for kind of legacy and otherwise in use systems in traditional infrastructure. And that's where I kind of really dove into the technology and went back to school, set up the Columbia Blockchain Club with a few people. It's actually still running today. And then I joined CMT Digital as the head of research after graduating. So I've been doing research for about 5 years now on blockchain, and it's been awesome seeing the acceleration of advancements in the space, especially in the past 2 years with the latest bull market. So yeah, really excited to join you all today and to talk a little bit about interoperability and message passing and the future of what that may hold.
Yeah, no, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And of course, don't hold back. These chats are meant to be very deep and very technical. So I am very, very happy to get into the weeds with you here, and to discuss this. And before we jump to those who may not be familiar with Paloma, that is hosting the AMA, We just like to tell folks that Paloma is the Cosmos SDK chain, built on a upgraded and new version of the original Cosmos project called Peggy, that became Gravity, and that is also part of amazing projects such as Axelar, projects such as Yumi, Sommelier, and others. Yeah, we were also the co-founders on Sommelier, and of course, Sommelier is launching some new stuff that is cross-chain as well. And we like to say to folks, Paloma is, if Juno and Gravity had a baby, it would be this wild, scrappy bird called Paloma. And what you can think of is Paloma as permissionless cross-chain messaging across any blockchain. And that makes Paloma the remote control blockchain for the entire crypto ecosystem. Very excited to have that continue. We're on testnet. And if you're curious, we're on testnet number 6. And if you're curious, you could check us out at, palomachain.com. All right. So, Aryan, we're going to start off with the first things first. All right. There's been a lot of activity in the cross-chain space, and you've seen a lot of things happening. What's your view? What's getting you excited about cross-chain communications? And what's the one thing, when you think about this new world of cross-chain engineering? What's the one thing that gets you tickled and very, very excited? What's top of mind for you?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm excited about the standards that are coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Cross-chain messaging and messaging in blockchain systems in general up until now has been pretty use case specific. But we're starting to see some common standards emerge, XCMP, IBC, and we can dive into those and the differences between them. But typically, message passing in blockchain has made up a considerable amount of the backend infrastructure, making things like bridges and with IBC sometimes gas-free swaps possible. And there's been numerous implementations of cross-chain communication between smart contract chains, but Near's Rainbow Bridge, Polkadot's Snow Bridge, Cosmos' Gravity Bridge.
That's right.
All of these kind of function most similarly to IBC, which is best described as a more generally applicable standard. And so it's exciting seeing, in the case of IBC, layer 0 building a layer on top of that. I like to refer to layer 0 as layer 3 as opposed to layer 0.
Wait, hold on. Okay, going fast there. No, wait, you just said IBC. So we we're on the, we like to chuckle that IBC is like a Cosmos-centric version of Peggy/Gravity. But you just said something that was interesting. You said that, you saw layer 0 as a version of IBC. Did I get you correct? Is that what you said?
In the sense that they employ the relayer and oracle model as opposed to a relayer chain. So relayer roles as opposed to a relay chain.
Right. Oh, perfect. That is beautiful. And thank you for clarifying that. And we had the layer 0 guys on an AMA did we have a layer 0 on an AMA? Oh, we just met with them. We're trying to get layer 0 to join us for an AMA. We love the layer 0 team. They're doing great stuff. But okay, great. So now that we've gotten some of that additional context, I think the IBC team could say, hey, you've spawned such amazing growth in so many different companies. It's awesome. So thanks for that. All right, but okay, hold on. You were talking about layer 3. That was cool. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the way that I see it, layer 0 kind of sits on a layer 3 really, as opposed to a layer 0, because we have these various standards of, in terms of IBC, you've got chain relay passing between A and B when they're making transfers, for example. But layer 0 sets a common standard and a framework which will sit on top of the IBC model, which is technically sitting on top of the consensus mechanism. So I think layer 0 is more generally thought of, in my eyes, as a layer 3 solution as opposed to a layer 0 solution.
Layer 0 solution. Wait, are you saying the layer 0 guys do good marketing?
They do.
Congratulations, layer 0. In an essence, one of the things we keep hearing about is, how these different approaches impact the security model. of the approaches themselves, or the security model of the expected performance of the messaging, the messaging transmission systems that are here. Do you see any big differences amongst these three that you described in the security guarantees, the security methods that they implement, or are they all pretty much as secure as the same because they sort of have this PEGI IBC nature among them, at least for this type of message passing narrative?
Yeah, I think security is really important when we think about message passing. And Axelar, for example, that's using two protocols. So it's using the cross-chain gateway protocol, which is most similarly compared to the internet's broader gateway protocol, and the cross-chain transfer protocol, which can be compared to HTTP or HTTPS. So they employ it's easy to think of it as like a relayer chain method where the security is held by Axelar in those protocols, as opposed to layer zero, which is using a third-party service, the Oracle,
Correct. That's right.
independent of other layer zero components, to read the block header from one chain and send it to another. So in theory, this Oracle can be any third party. I know layer zero mainly uses Chainlink, I think, but this poses as a fundamental level more of a threat to security than XLR would.
So, and you would say because of this nature of depending upon a third party, which of course layer zero does not control. Layer zero does not control Chainlink. It does not control the Chainlink validators. It doesn't control the Chainlink network. Layer zero is at the whim, of the performance of this third party. Is that what you're saying? Sort of brings in this unique difference from Axelar, where the security still it remains within the validator set that act as relayers and maybe attest or provide, quote unquote, the Oracle activity that is needed to verify that a thing has indeed happened. Is that your view? Am I getting it right, or am I digging a hole too deep?
No, absolutely. I think that's a good representation of my view on that, and the same applies to relayers within the layer zero system. And I'm not saying that layer zero is worse or Axelar is better than layer zero necessarily. I just
Correct.
From a fundamental perspective, the relayer as well being an off-chain service similar to an Oracle, but instead of fetching the block headers, it's fetching the proof for the transaction.
Right.
The only requirement for a valid delivery there is that the Oracle and the relayer must be independent of each other. And so you're still using a third-party relayer service. Now, in the case of Layer Zero, I believe they are using their own relay, like they're providing a relay
Correct.
service internally.
Yes.
But they've started partnering with IBC to provide relayer functionality for Cosmos SDK chain. So I think they need to be very, very specific about which relayer services they partner with.
And let's also be clear, the relay services have their problems. I mean, I was part of IBC's initial launch as part of Cosmos Stargate. And, how do you incentivize relayers to stay up? How do you incentivize people to join the relayer network and be, that is still an evolving topic, even in the IBC space that, we see many Cosmos SDK chains with IBC sort of falter on performance when the relayer network is sort of, not big enough or not diverse enough, not heterogeneous enough. I mean, I've seen, calls where people call up, pick up the phone and they call the relayer and say, hey, bro, can you make sure this message gets through? And I'm like, wait, are we doing that in the 21st century? They're like, yeah, like the relayer network and the relayer architecture is still new, even for IBC, that I think it's still evolving and we're still learning how to make these things work, right? I mean, is that your view as well, or have you seen it sort of functioning, flawlessly?
No, absolutely. I think it's very much a trial and error process. And I mean, we've just seen a couple of months ago Cosmos coming out with its own shared security model, the
Correct.
security model. And I think these sort of iterations will further the viability of standards to be used in places of relayers and oracles further down the line. I mean, we're seeing oracles built on ZK environments being able to provide that full transparency that Chainlink oracles, for example, couldn't. So I think iterations in the technology will make the the dependency on third parties a little bit more viable in the future.
Right.
But
Right.
if we're thinking about the economic ramifications of the two approaches as well, there's an interesting trade-off because, Axelar is going to be associated with a considerably higher overhead cost in setting up a protocol to handle all of that relaying and security models, whereas Layer Zero doesn't have that startup fee associated with it. But as it
Right.
scales, it could find itself in a position where, due to the scaling, Layer Zero will be ending up paying more to Relayer's Oracle
Right.
services
Right.
than Axelar would in the very, very long run if we assume that both of them scale to the point of intersection.
Right. Right. Agreed. Agreed. Again, we're early days, so we don't know, what that would look like, and I think that is something that we even see in Paloma. In the Paloma, of course, the gravity approach, the question of cost, and how will validators, and it's very funny because even in gravity, even in Paloma, we both use IBC and we use gravity at the same time. And currently, the IBC layer for us is a struggle because the setup costs are high, and because of bootstrapping that offers is a little more expensive than the gravity side. But we do have that confidence that once it gets up and running, those costs, as they get amortized over more relayers and more validators, will go down. So I can confirm, we even see that at Paloma. And that is confirmed. So okay. So here's my question now. Let's take a moment and pivot a little bit away from the architecture questions and the architecture insights, and now talk about use cases and applications. Specifically, talking about what are they good for, and let's talk about app chains. What's your view in terms of what you've seen so far that these cross-chain protocols and app chains have been good for? Do you have any sort of in this moment sort of gut reactions of what, it seems to be really good for these types of problems? Do you have anything to share here that we might take away?
Yeah, I think this app chain and shared, I think we can group it all under shared security models. But I
Correct.
think the shared security models are going to be a huge part of this year's thesis, in my opinion, because for the first time with the movement of DYDX to Cosmos, we're seeing a independent community move over to a model where they don't have to worry about their security necessarily, but only their independent ecosystem. And so that those assumptions on security allow them to focus on building their community, their functionality, their closed system economy.
Right. Of course.
And I think that's super important because now that if we assume that the security is accounted for, and also within Cosmos we have IBC functionality that enables just gas-free swaps this through the IBC state channel equivalent setup, that really removes a lot of the overhead, developer resources, and just time spent on figuring out these problems, because they're Cosmoses to worry about, and DYDX can focus on building their own product and their own community and functionality. And looking at the infrastructure of DYDX, the ability for it to conduct those transactions on an environment that has a trusted setup is hugely important, especially if we're coming up to scaling.
Right. Well, now let's be clear now. So when we say shared security, just to be clear, you're saying that DYDX will be a Cosmos chain that will be secured by the Cosmos Hub?
As I believe it, yes.
Right. Okay. So for folks who don't know, shared security is when you set up your protocol, but you essentially say, "Hey, I'll find another chain that whose value is so much higher that I can just say to them, listen, why don't you validate my blocks for me? And if you validate my blocks for me, you'll get a piece. I'll reward you with a piece of our issuance or tokens, and then you don't have to bootstrap your own validator network. You don't have to try to do crazy validator incentive parties. You don't have to issue new tokens to validators. You can just say, hey, Cosmos, you already have a set of validators who are solid. They've been performant through thick and thin. I will use their security and their ability to validate blocks to validate my own. And so in the old, if you're from the old Bitcoin days, we would call this merge mining. Am I right?
And I think an important characteristic here is that as the number of consumer chains increase, so does the
Yes.
incentives for securing those chains, because
Correct.
the Cosmos Hub delegators will automatically receive the rewards, the staking rewards
Correct.
from these consumer chains. So
Correct.
it incentivizes a long-term sustainable growth model within the consumer chains.
Yeah, and I will say that even at volume, we have a consumer chain. We haven't announced it yet, but so yes, if you're listening to this and reading, this is some alpha. I mean, we are even ourselves working on a consumer chain with participation from informal systems in the Cosmos ecosystem, and this chain will be presented to be secured by the hub. Of course, the problem with that, Aryan, is that you still need the hub to approve sharing security of the hub or any other main chain with your chain. So if they don't like you, not that everybody loves me, everybody does love me, if they don't like your chain or your chain doesn't align with the values of the largest security player, there could be a point where you just can't get that shared security. It's not something that, I guess the question is, it's not a fait accompli, and it's not necessary that you can buy it, right? Or is it your view that it should be as fluid as, yes, I can just buy my shared security, by saying, hey, I'll pay the validators enough money so they have to vote with me. Is it that compelling, or is it going to be more, well, more politics in the way that we have to vote, and a lot of decentralized governance is politics behind the scenes, negotiating and sort of jockeying, as we know, which is the sharing of power. Do you have any views about that and that impact of the shared security model?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it comes down to a mixture of both, and obviously we still have a way to go in governance and really incentivizing full governance, but um,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a blend of how much value can this consumer chain bring to our hub, and does their vision align with our greater mission as well? And I think
Right.
generally within decentralized systems, especially systems that are moving towards a shared security model, I
Yep.
think the majority of the time there shouldn't be any misalignments within the
Yep.
politics, but
Yep.
the economics are definitely a one of the key factors I would consider.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right. Jumping on to the next topic, VMs and SDKs. Okay. You've seen a lot of work in the EVM space. These are the virtual machines, the interpreters that allow developers to write logic. We sometimes call them smart contracts, so that they can be run and interpreted in the bytecode of the consensus layer and the blockchain. So, question for you: are new EVMs coming, or not EVMs? Are new virtual machines coming, or are we still in an EVM dominant world? Are there alternatives, or are we kind of right now, more EVMs distributed across even more chains, or something else?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think honestly, EVM is so ahead of any other virtual machine just by total collateral metrics. Like the pure volume on EVM chains is just so much higher than anything
Hey,
else.
hold on. I don't know. The Solana people might say, "Hey, hold my beer, hold my beer."
but that has been a problem with Solana, right? The virtual machine has been a bit of an issue when it comes to bridging and it comes to
Correct.
interoperability. And I
Yes.
mean, if we look at a couple of days ago, Polygon has just released their new ZK EVM, and if we look at EVMs on top of Tendermint as an example of how quickly people can move to implement EVMs, we've got
Evmos. Mm-hmm.
yeah, Evmos, we've got Ethermint EVM, we've got CosmWasm, which is WASM, we've got secure ECMA scripts like Cosmic Swing Set, Pact, Cadenament, and even Movement is building on top of
Oh, wow!
Tendermint as well. And
No way. That's awesome.
yeah, Movement is using the Rust ABCI framework.
Yep.
which makes sense. But you look at the framework, and then I build the virtual machine off of the framework. And I think it's important to look at. So one of the reasons I love Cosmos is because of that SDK, and you're looking at near bridging to Polkadot, and it can only
Yeah.
do that through Cosmos because of their
Right.
SDK. And
Right.
so I think the framework that chains are using is more important than people realize when it comes to the virtual machine.
So in a way, the Cosmos SDK's vision of, again, many different chains talking to each other, so, was well ahead of its time, and is now sort of, an emergent demand or an emergent state for chains that want to succeed in an interoperable world in the
Right.
cross-chain space. Okay,
But then
yeah,
but then it's important to realize that both the framework, so the tool set, the virtual machine, and the message passing standard
yes,
are all kind of like these fluid systems where they could or they couldn't interact with another standard. So in the case of
yeah,
IPC and Cosmos SDK, they can. Uh,
right,
XCMP and Cosmos SDK still can, but
yeah,
they weighing the pros and cons of all of them when it comes to security and generally what you want to achieve is really important. So for
yeah,
some people, it doesn't make sense to go to Polkadot because the auction barrier to entry is just too high for them. So
right.
they'd rather go to Cosmos, for example.
Correct, and essentially make a vote for shared security, and make the hub more valuable, which of course for hub validators is what they want, so they can essentially again continue to increase the amount of revenue validators make per block. No, I think it's awesome, and if Cosmos makes it easier, then everybody should continue to launch a Cosmos chain, and continue to build there. All right, we are out of time. Aryan, this has been awesome. Do you have a blog? How can folks follow you? Get to hear some of your thoughts, because there's a lot of cool alpha here. There's a lot of great insights. Should we follow your Twitter? What do you recommend?
Yeah, normally I keep research pretty in-house, but I'm going to be putting out more threads and stuff in the future. So I'd say the best place is probably my Twitter.
And you're going to come back and do another presentation with us, another AMA with us, right? Like,
Yes, sir.
please. That's awesome. All right. Well, we are now at time for questions, but if you do have any questions, please tweet them at us. Tweet them at Arian. His Twitter handle is in this event. I want to say thank you very much, Arian, for chatting with me, taking us deep into the architectural origins and future of cross-chain communications. And this is all exciting stuff, which is now, again, the hottest part of crypto. And now that we're in crypto winter, I think we will see even more innovation and more great things to come. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the community. Thank you, Paloma Pigeons. Cool. And we will see you all on our Twitter as well as our Telegrams and Discord. Thanks so
Thank you for
much.
having me.
It was a pleasure.